Jeffree Star called out Claire's for their possibly contaminated makeup, and people aren't surprised. Before I get into the tea, I just want to put out a disclaimer. Please do not send any hate or threats of any kind to Claire's, Jeffree Star, or anyone else involved. This video is simply meant to report on the news and give some insight and advice surrounding the controversy. On March 5th, FDA Cosmetics tweeted this: "Warning, FDA is advising consumers not to use certain Claire's eyeshadows, compact powder, and contour powder products because they may be contaminated with asbestos fibers. If you have these cosmetics in your home, stop using them." Attached to the tweet was a link to the US Food and Drug Administration website with a detailed recall and alert article on Claire's cosmetic products. The FDA says, "The FDA is advising consumers not to use certain Claire's cosmetic products because they may be contaminated with asbestos fibers. Samples of the following products tested positive for tremolite asbestos during FDA testing: Claire's eyeshadows, Claire's compact powder, Claire's contour palette." The FDA sampled and attested targeted cosmetic products following reports of contaminated cosmetics marketed by Claire's. Testing was conducted on behalf of FDA by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration and AMA Analytical Services Incorporated. The FDA attached these images of the tested products: the eyeshadows, the compact powder, and the contour palette. And they explained what asbestos is. Asbestos is a naturally occurring mineral that is often found near talc, an ingredient in many cosmetic products. Asbestos, however, is a known carcinogen and its health risks are well documented. During talc mining, if talc mining sites are not selected carefully and steps are taken to purify the talc ore sufficiently, the talc may be contaminated with asbestos. The FDA explained they have not seen any adverse reactions associated to Claire's products, but they say healthcare professionals and consumers are encouraged to report any adverse events potentially related to Claire's eyeshadow, compact powder, and contour palette to FDA's MedWatch Adverse Event Reporting Program. Jeffree Star saw the news and tweeted, "Hi Claire's, you're officially canceled until further notice. Anyone with children that shops there, be careful." Many fans felt the same way. If he says it's canceled, it's canceled. Jeffree Star is legally allowed to cancel anyone. How powerful. Queen spoken. Canceled. One mother even trashed her daughter's Claire's makeup. "Well, all my daughter's Claire's makeup is being thrown out." A Claire's employee replied, "The main things that have been contaminated are the powder-based products, eyeshadows, and face powders. Everything else is totally fine. I work at Claire's, so I know that all other products are safe for using. But I understand being safer than sorry." Aside from the makeup drama, one fan brought up Jeffree's comment about Claire's piercing service. The tweet reads, "You literally just said you'd go there to get your ears pierced in today's vid. I'm dead." Jeffree actually uploaded a video the same day, before the news broke out, asking his viewers if he should get his ears pierced at Claire's.
Should I get my ears pierced again, you guys? It's been like 5 years and for some reason the hole closed, so I'm not having it. Should I go to Claire's? Next video.
However, many fans warned Jeffree about their unpleasant experience. "I used to work at Claire's. Don't get your ears pierced there. Anybody. Ever. We watched a training video and practiced on a foam ear once. I had to let another training employee pierce me and she didn't push the gun all the way through. Ears got infected. I actually got 6 ear piercings there, LOL. My brother got 2 and the lady messed up so bad. I've messed up a few. It's not super easy to line everything up, and the gun we had was the trigger would lock, so if you didn't full force slam it into someone's ear, it wouldn't make it through. Sometimes the lineup would move because of that. Every time I get pierced at Claire's, it gets infected. Literally same. I tried to get my first piercing from there when I was little, and I cleaned it every day, and I had a bunch of pus. Like a year ago, I tried to get my cartilage pierced there, and they gave me huge bumps. I still have the scar tissue bumps. Same. I went there twice to get my ears pierced and I've had to go to the hospital because the infections got so bad." A few people gave advice on where to get your ears pierced. "Jeffree, I know you mentioned in your last video about getting your ears pierced at Claire's. Go to a tattoo shop instead. I hear they are the safest and I bet you already know a fair amount of tattoo piercing parlors too. Get your ears pierced at a tattoo shop. They properly sterilize everything." Another person felt differently and defended Claire's. "Just because you go to a tattoo place doesn't mean they won't mess up the piercing. It's all about training. Most of the time people get stainless steel because it's cheap and that's why they get infected. You were allergic to the metal, not Claire's fault." Someone responded and said, "It is Claire's fault because they allow teenagers to pierce people with guns which cannot be properly sterilized, so they harbor tons of bacteria and can spread bloodborne illness. On top of that, guns split the ear, causing trauma to the tissue." Another person talked about the piercing method being unsafe and unsanitary. The hole a gun creates versus a needle are very different. Get a piece of paper and stab a pencil through it. You get a jagged hole. Needle will be clean. That aside, the training those people have is basically none. I've been told they practice on a piece of cardboard one time and that's about it. The gun is also extremely unsanitary in general. Needles are always fresh at a tattoo shop and everything is sterilized and up to standards. Claire's should have been cancelled decades ago. Don't use a gun, always a tattoo shop. And some other ex-employees drag Claire's for their working conditions. I used to work there and we were forced to wear the jewelry then sell it to customers. So gross. Oh, and you can't refuse to wear it, at all, or they threaten to fire you. LMAO, I got a write-up from not wearing my DTI, so I quit after that. I used to accidentally take home my DTI and my manager didn't even care. We would keep it, LOL. Haha, same. I got written up for accidentally taking a bracelet home. Like, f your $2 cheapest f. Shortly after all the replies, Jeffree tweeted, "Okay, now I'm hearing horror stories from all you guys about ear piercings at Claire's. Guess I'll forget about that video idea because I don't want an infection or now asbestos contamination." The comments on this tweet were more positive. Some people said their ear piercing experience at Claire's was good. Was I the only one who had a good experience at Claire's? Nope, I've gotten 3 piercings there and haven't had a problem. I took my daughter, it was great. I went there to get my second and third holes done along with my cartilage. My piercings were fine, except the second holes are a tad lower so they don't line up perfectly. Same, I got my cartilage pierced a long time ago and no issues. But many people continued to say piercing guns weren't a good idea. Piercing guns are extremely dangerous because you cannot clean them properly. I beg you to see a professional next time. Go to a tattoo piercing shop. Honestly, a needle is so much safer and easier to heal. Not whatever place, a proper piercing place, done with a sterile needle. Piercing guns are the devil. They rip the skin apart and can't be sanitized. Can't believe this is still happening. Even YouTuber and body modification enthusiast Rolly West said to Jeffree, "OMG, no, please don't do that. I don't want you to end up in one of my piercing fail reaction videos." And I will say, going to a tattoo parlor or piercing shop is the right thing to do. The Association of Professional Piercers explains, a number of states have made it illegal to use a piercing gun for any piercings besides the earlobe, and with good reason. Most ear piercing guns can't be sterilized, and anyone being pierced by them is at risk. A reputable professional won't use a gun for any piercing, even for earlobes. And Whitney, a piercing expert, explains, piercing guns are not designed to pierce noses. Not only are needles much safer, they're also cleaner, more accurate, and less painful. There are many reasons why you should never use a gun to pierce anything but a lobe, and many reasons you shouldn't use one on a lobe either. Safety, cleanliness, accuracy, pain, infection, complication, the list goes on, and it includes size as well. Piercing guns almost always use 20 to 18 gauge wire, since most standard studs and most French hook earrings are 20 gauge, but other sites require other sizes. For example, lips and navel piercings require 14 gauge jewelry in lengths much longer than standard studs. So even if you manage to pierce the lip or navel with a gun, you'd have to immediately pull it out and replace it with longer, thicker jewelry. In other words, you'd have to shove a too big post into a too small hole right away. Ouch! Do you really want more pain at that point? Much easier, safer, smarter, cleaner to use the right size needle for the job. The blunt force of a piercing gun is likely to rip or shatter your cartilage. In fact, using a piercing gun on cartilage has been outlawed in many places. Okay, so back to the tea. The next day, on March 6th, Claire's tweeted this. At Claire's, customer safety is paramount, and we pride ourselves on providing our customers with the highest quality and safest products. We wish to address today's FDA warning that 3 cosmetic items sold by Claire's may have been contaminated with asbestos. And also attach this notice. We assure customers that our products are safe. Out of an abundance of caution, we have removed the 3 products identified by the FDA from our stores, and are also removing any remaining talc-based cosmetic products. We will honor returns of any Claire's talc-based cosmetics. There is no evidence that any products sold by Claire's are unsafe. In early 2018, the 3 items identified by the FDA were extensively tested by multiple independent accredited laboratories, and all products were found to be compliant with all relevant cosmetic safety regulations. The recent test results the FDA have shared with us show significant errors. Specifically, the FDA test reports have mischaracterized fibers in the products as asbestos, in direct contradiction to established EPA and USP criterion for classifying asbestos fibers. Despite our efforts to discuss these issues with the FDA, they insisted on moving forward with their release. We are disappointed that the FDA has taken this step, and we will continue to work with them to demonstrate the safety of our products. On March 12th, Claire's officially recalled the 3 cosmetic products that tested positive for asbestos during the FDA testing. Even though Claire's got rid of their products after the FDA mischaracterized the fibers in their product, people were still not happy about the way Claire's responded in their statement. You are mad that FDA decided to release their findings? Get a grip. We are disappointed that the FDA has taken this step, so you'd rather let people continue to use the contaminated products? I'm rolling my eyes this morning reading this statement. We're disappointed that you didn't care enough about consumer safety to comply. Why take chances? Some people criticize Claire's customer safety. Can we talk about how y'all f***ed my ears for life because of your piercing guns? You've had problems long before this. Don't act like you give a damn about customer safety. I'll post pictures of my ears in the comments. I'll never be able to wear earrings. Oh honey, I feel you. My mom made the mistake of taking me back to get my cartilage done there, and I have so much scar tissue. Can't wear normal cartilage earrings in it because it's like permanently swollen. And don't even get me started on my earlobes. Customer safety is no paramount. If it was, you could have fully trained the employees instead of us watching a stupid video, and the piercing guns aren't even sanitized. They're left in a drawer with germs and are cleaned with alcohol wipes. And others brought up Claire's past asbestos controversy. Not. CNN reported your asbestos contamination back in 2017. On follow-up, you were caught again. So much for your recall 15 months ago. But they've had this issue on the table for a year and a half. Until now, the stance has been to deny, and state internally not that there isn't any asbestos, but a legally allowable amount of asbestos. These are children. Basically, back in 2017, Deaton law firm that specializes in asbestos litigation found asbestos in 24 makeup items from 17 kits, including eyeshadows, blushes, and compact powders, all talc-based. So, what's the big issue? Asbestos is a lot more complicated than we think. I don't excuse the FDA reports, and I do believe we shouldn't take risks when it comes to hazardous products, but it's important to be educated on why some makeup products are dangerous. So back in 2017, the mother who sent Claire's makeup to test for the cancer-causing material shared a sob story about her daughter. Her daughter asked, "Am I going to die?" The mother responded, "There's no right answer to that because I don't want to lie to her." This confused a lot of people, and one person took it to Reddit to ask, "Very disturbing story. How the hell did asbestos get in there?" Many knowledgeable people shared these interesting findings. Tremolite is a naturally occurring mineral that is often found in talc in minute quantities. However, there's no study that I know of that has ever robustly linked the occurrence of tremolite traces in talc to mesothelioma when using makeup or talc products. There's one study of talc miners in New York that found 8 cases of mesothelioma in a tremolite-contaminated talc mine, but it's important to note that these miners worked for decades in very dusty talc mines, quite different from a brief exposure to it in tiny traces in tremolite in makeup, I guess a cumulative 1 million times greater exposure in the mines. On the other hand, there appears to be a link between talc itself and cervical cancer. Nevertheless, due to the concerns of tremolite in talc, most products that formerly used talc have been phased out and replaced with starch. Given the mother works for a law firm, I suspect she knew before testing that the makeup would test positive for tiny traces of tremolite. There may have been money involved here. A student in my geology department analyzed talc products in the early 2000s as part of her third-year project before talc was phased out and found 40% of talc products had tiny traces of tremolite. What's more, tremolite in talc usually isn't asbestiform. So merely finding tremolite doesn't necessarily mean that it's asbestos. Mr. Fitzgerald, from the article, plays fast and loose with this distinction and has argued that you can use X-ray diffraction to identify tremolite asbestos when in fact all it can find is tremolite. The kid will be fine. Asbestos is only a problem when you inhale the fibers, and a lot of them over a long period of time. It's good to pull the product, but there doesn't appear to be any reason to worry about the kids' well-being. However, one person explained that even a short amount of exposure to asbestos could be life-threatening, claiming his colleague passed away after ingesting a single fiber of asbestos. Source: colleague of mine died last year of asbestos-caused cancer, 25 years after working for a few weeks with asbestos on a construction project. But others explained that a single fiber doesn't harm anyone. Please stop spreading lies. It does nothing but get the uninformed all worried. The stuff isn't kryptonite. Asbestos-related illnesses are occupational disorders caused by high levels and repeated exposure. If a single fiber lodged in your lungs causes cancer, then everyone that has ever been on the street in any major city should be dropping dead like flies, along with anyone that's ever lived in a home more than 30 years old. Agreed. All the employees at Sun Studio in Memphis, where Elvis recorded, should have cancer. The sound panels in the old studio are still there. They are made of asbestos. The risk of cancer increases with exposure to the particles over long periods. They haven't removed it because it is safer to let it be, as it isn't crumbling, and removal would create significantly more of the dangerous dust. Very small amounts of exposure at one time will not cause mesothelioma or cancer in this case. Good on the family for catching this, but the little girl shouldn't be too concerned. Asbestos is naturally occurring and in the air you're breathing right now, just like mold. Small amounts don't harm you, chronic exposure does. As you said, a few weeks of exposure to high levels of asbestos qualifies as chronic exposure. Sorry about your friend, but you're wrong. To further explain, there are different grades of talc: medical, cosmetic, and industrial grade. We're going to be talking about cosmetic grade talc, also known as talcum powder. Talc or talcum powder is used in many cosmetic products such as foundation, creams and moisturizers, eyeshadow, blush, mascara, lipstick, deodorant, and loose and compressed makeup powders. Talc can be contaminated with asbestos fibers. According to the Mesothelioma Center, talc and asbestos are minerals that form together. That means talc mined for commercial uses can be contaminated with asbestos. In other words, some talcum powder products are contaminated with asbestos while others are not. Whether a talc product contains asbestos depends on where the talc was sourced. Some talc mines are contaminated with asbestos and some are not. Why is talc used in makeup? The Mesothelioma Center explains it is the softest mineral on Earth and is known for its ability to absorb moisture and reduce the appearance of oily skin. For example, talc-based face powders are commonly used on top of cream foundations to set the foundation so that it stays in place and looks naturally dry instead of oily and shiny. There is such a thing as asbestos-free talc, but it's a difficult process. The FDA explains, it is important to select talc mining sites carefully and take steps to purify talc to prevent asbestos contamination in cosmetic products. Unfortunately, this is easier said than done. And sometimes there's simply the lack of regulation around cosmetic-grade talc. The Mesothelioma Center explains, asbestos ends up in makeup because of poor regulations involving cosmetic-grade talc, which is also known as talcum powder. There's a long history of asbestos remaining in talc that is certified asbestos-free. Manufacturers don't purposely add asbestos to cosmetics, but there is a lack of regulation around cosmetic-grade talc. Because of that relaxed oversight, no one is checking for the presence of asbestos. That means companies can get away with not testing their talc for asbestos before putting it into their products, possibly harming consumers. However, despite all the research and people who develop asbestos-related cancers, studies on the link between exposure to talc and cancer are still inconclusive, but many other countries recognize asbestos as a dangerous mineral. More than 50 countries, including the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and all 28 countries of the European Union, have banned the use of asbestos. And there's even an increase in asbestos talc lawsuits in recent years. In fact, in March 2018, Claire's filed for bankruptcy because they were $2 billion in debt. People suspected they took a big hit after their makeup recall due to their asbestos case in 2017. But even so, not all countries ban asbestos. Surprisingly, the US is one of the few countries that hasn't banned it. According to the Mesothelioma Center, the US continues to import and use asbestos with no plan for stricter regulations in place. It may be shocking to many, especially if you're among the majority of people who believe that asbestos was banned in the US after warnings were issued in the 1970s. Overall, I think Claire's did the right thing by recalling their allegedly contaminated makeup. Their Twitter statement was a bit defensive, but they did do the right thing in the end. And I'm glad the FDA is taking action for our safety. They explained, There are currently no legal requirements for any cosmetic manufacturer marketing products to American consumers to test their products for safety. The FDA Act imparts the responsibility on us to monitor the cosmetics market and take action to protect consumers if needed in the post-market setting. Cosmetics must not be adulterated or misbranded, meaning they must be safe for consumers when used according to directions on the label or in the customary or expected way, and they must be properly labeled. The FDA's current work focuses on reviewing scientific literature, reviewing reports of adverse events involving cosmetics that we receive from consumers and health professionals, research, surveillance, education and outreach, and pursuing enforcement action against products on the market that are not in compliance with the law or against firms or individuals who violate the law. Although the law doesn't require cosmetic products to be registered with the FDA, we're also calling upon cosmetic firms to take responsible steps to voluntarily register their products and list ingredients, including talc, used in their products via the FDA's Voluntary Cosmetic Registration Program. And if you're really worried as a consumer, you can look for talc-free makeup products. What are your thoughts on the situation? Let me know in the comments down below.